back. Welcome back to the Night Shift. Our next guest is Todd Schaefer, the author of the Acceptance Guidebook, a phenomenal new book. Todd serves as a teacher, a writer, a coach for the conscious growth. He's written several online publications as both staff and contributing author. And today we're here to talk about your new book, Todd. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
The Acceptance Guidebook, is that like the secret, or is that like a law of attraction type book? What is it about?
The Acceptance Guidebook is a collection of essays about various themes that surround acceptance. And you could say, I mean, there is a lot of attraction in it, and plenty of other things also. I'd say it kind of picks up where the secret left off in a very real way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who do you think this book is mostly geared for? If you were to direct it towards the ideal market. I mean, I'm a 44-year-old man. I'm a divorced guy. Got a couple kids. Who's your ideal prospect for reaching out and touching people's lives?
I've noticed that women tend to resonate with the material quite a bit, and also some men, although guys are, generally speaking, tend to be a little bit more pushing the emotions down and things like that.
That's for sure.
But and that's just our nature. So, but yeah, a lot of people, a lot of women in their 30s and 40s, even 50s, tend to resonate with the material quite a bit, and men who are more in touch with their emotions do also.
Right. So this is not a religious book necessarily.
No, I don't think the word religion is in the book at all.
Not even one.
I don't think so. You don't quote me on that, but there's no talk about religion.
Maybe as a reference to what it's not. Only.
Perhaps, yeah.
So, how would this book help a person who's seeking, change, or looking to adapt, or looking to, explore their spirituality?
It's a good question. The book was written over about 6 years' time, so there's a lot of my own spiritual growth in there. Some of my stories are in there, some of my triumphs and pitfalls, things I screwed up on, things I did right, and then, what the lessons were involved with that. And people taking that journey can experience those lessons for themselves, and kind of, it's kind of a quickening tool. It allows people to not have to go through all the blunders day in and day out, over and over, beating their head against the wall. They can actually get in there, learn some really hardcore, great tools for acceptance and just insight after insight. It's just jam-packed with insights.
How would you differentiate the word spirituality? I mean, a lot of people get caught up in the word spirituality, and they always confuse it with religion, or they always get it mixed up with Sedona and sit by the rocks and feeling the vortex.
Right.
I mean, what is spirituality to you, and how would you simply define it to our audience?
Another excellent question. In my opinion, spirituality is just the feelings-based relationship that you have with yourself.
Wow. I mean, that would free a lot of people around that word.
Right.
Because there's a lot of freedom in that definition.
Mm-hmm. And it also gives you the latitude to, if you listen to that definition I just came up with, it gives you the latitude to not have to involve a lot of other things that you may deem unnecessary, or you may deem as shoulds. That, I need to do this in order to be a spiritual person. I need to do this to be a good person, or whatever kind of person.
We call those rules.
Yes.
Yeah. Some people feel like they have to earn the right to be spiritual, or I'm not good enough, therefore I have to do this in order to feel like I'm being spiritual.
Right.
Or loved or respected.
True.
Or whatever.
True. And you can use, there are no wrong tools out there. And any tool, any religion, any belief system can serve a purpose for anyone. And if they feel good about it, if that creates that alignment of feeling good, then it's serving the purpose. I'm not here to say those things are wrong and this is right, or blah blah blah.
Right.
It's but these tools in here kind of circumvent some of the other tools that might take you a little bit longer to get to the nuts and bolts about what it is.
Right. So why do you call it the Acceptance Guidebook?
Because the themes in it surround acceptance, for one. Acceptance is the cornerstone for any kind of spiritual or emotional transmutation. And guidebook, because it's written in a very accessible way, so that people can open it up. And I'll grant you that the material is very deep, but it is sectioned into one paragraph subheadings. It is very, very accessible and approachable. You can read one little paragraph at a time and digest it.
You said something pretty powerful a minute ago, and I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say acceptance is the key to anyone's personal transmutation?
Yes, I did.
Can you define that a little bit? That's pretty powerful statement.
Yeah. Again, it's my opinion. I think a lot of people, a lot of spiritual folks would agree that once you accept an emotion, or give it up, or cry if you need to cry, or whatever it is, those things that those wounds we've been carrying with us for a long time, for example.
Okay.
If we finally get to the point where we can cry or accept or release those things, there is a healing process. That's a transmutational process of acceptance.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it just means letting that whatever it is be felt, and that's the process of acceptance, plain and simple.
Like what resists persists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think problems don't go away until you deal with them.
Right. In fact, a good analogy to illustrate that is a lot of people, like we're trained in this world to perform at this level. Mm-hmm. You need to do this to feel worthy. I think even the first quote in the epigraph there says, what does it say? I think it says, there it is. It says, we tend to develop abilities to make ourselves valuable, but later we come to find that those abilities aren't what make us valuable.
I can so relate to that.
Right.
I love this. This is, what would you say to a person who's been hesitant to explore spirituality because they get caught up in the stereotypical meaning of spirituality, and yet they are struggling with things they really shouldn't be struggling with? Would they know? Had they known about acceptance or known about how simple healing can be if they just allowed some of this stuff to be dealt with?
Well, we each have our own internal guidance system. We have our gut checks. We have our intuition. We have our feelings. That is where the guidance comes from. That's our source connection there. Mm-hmm. Everything you need is in there. So a hesitant person, they can't be. You don't want to force anybody to do anything. They just come to reach out or dig in to themselves when they feel the urge to do it, and that's their own guidance system to do it. What tool they use is completely up to them, and there's a lot of intelligence that's guiding them to the right type of tool for them personally.
Mm-hmm. I see a topic here I can relate to. Compassionate detachment.
That's a good one. Actually, that is the oldest article or the oldest essay in this book.
Wow.
And it's from 2005, and it has to deal with how to really oversimplify it, how to practice tough love in a very self-worthy type of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of people see detachment as abandonment and non-loyalty. That was my problem for a while. And if you love yourself, you care about yourself, you want to do the right thing for the other person as well. Sometimes you gotta let go.
Right.
You gotta let go.
It's ironic that you would push something away and say that that's love, but that it's self-love sometimes.
How about? You touch on some other issues here that might be sensitive to especially the male population. Intimacy.
Like the spiritual intimacy essay.
That, and then I also saw something about self-honesty.
Self-honesty is the prerequisite for any kind of intimacy that anybody wants to have with themselves. This book here, like I said, 6 years worth of growth kind of put together. This is a result of being honest about a lot of my own games, my own crap, and we cultivate that self-honesty, we cultivate that spiritual intimacy by being honest with ourselves. And a lot of people don't want to do that, and that's why spiritual growth is often scoffed at, and people just don't make much headway because they're not really willing to be honest about what their games are.
Right.
But once you are willing, you grow a lot faster.
So you feel that self-honesty would also improve the intimacy between you and your mate?
Oh, absolutely. Without question, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, Todd, I thank you very much. We're looking forward to the next segment here, and I appreciate you coming by tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
Very little edits.
That was really good.
Really good. Thank you.
Really good.
I can't concentrate what you're saying right now. I'm gonna get back into.
He's okay. Oh.
This is Troy Bohlke. We're back at the night shift, and we have the author of the Acceptance Guidebook with us tonight. And we're going into part 2 of our interview. The first part was fantastic. I think I could flip to any page of this book and we could talk for hours on any one of these topics. This is a fantastic book. Tell me about beliefs. Let's just start with that one, because I personally want to delve into that one. I'm going to talk to you more about this after the show. This is fantastic.
Beliefs are they're in essence they're placeholders for what we want to discover, but we have a taste of the personal truth for ourselves, but we don't all the way know yet. So we kind of use those beliefs as placeholders in order to help us in the next step, basically. And then when we find a deeper level of knowingness from our feelings and such, then we trade out those beliefs for new ones, or we let go of them altogether.
Yeah, how do you trade out a belief that's been hurting you and holding you back, and you know it doesn't work for you, but it shows up in your actions and in your inactions?
You can either, if you're aware of it, you can work on it consciously. You can also do a variety of other things. Hypnotherapy is very effective.
We know someone in that business.
Yeah, so those are my 2 top recommendations.
Yeah, I think that the hypnotherapy might be a better solution for many, because the depth at which these beliefs seem to be operating in people's lives, it's just like it seems that no matter what you do, you keep on repeating the same thing in the same relationships, bringing the same, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you keep on doing the same thing. You don't need to, you don't want to, and it's frustrating to see people go through that.
And I can comment on that. Before I mentioned briefly about how we're taught to operate at this level and develop our abilities, our mental faculties and such. But emotionally, we're all at this level, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that's where we are. Right. We're not nearly as developed emotionally as we are mentally. And not only that, we're kind of cut off from our emotions. We're kind of here versus here. And so, people talk about like midlife crises and whatnot. That's because that gap has to close at some point.
I can tell you that is one of the most accurate statements I've ever heard. You see a successful business person operating at such precision levels, and then you see them triggered by something and they act like an 8th grader. It's amazing. Yeah, I've seen it over and I've done it. It's amazing. Yeah. Or in a relationship, you see this eloquent woman operating, just living her life, and then you push one button and she starts talking like a 16-year-old.
Yeah, and we all have triggers. I do too, and it's usually 1 to 5 years old, or 1 to 10, or something like that, and it's normal, it's natural, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's amazing to see this transformation temporarily. Act out. It's like come out of the same human being that's walking around doing all these mature things, and all of a sudden bust out with this immature reaction.
Right.
It's shocking. But I think that there's a time when people stop developing, at least in segments. I talk about vertical markets all the time in my business. Yeah. But there's vertical emotions, I think, and you see people grow massively in one area, but they pause in a certain other area, and maybe relationships could be where they pause, or maybe business is where they pause. But it's so reflective of how they if they have a winning formula, the way they act and the way they are in certain areas. You can just see it, and I'd love to find out a little more about that in this book here.
The book does speak to that, definitely, about the parts of us that are neglected, and what are the tools and techniques that we can use in there to develop them.
Yeah, like a speed course.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, it's true.
So, how do you know to trust your own guidance? I mean, how do you know to trust yourself? Maybe your own credibility with yourself is hurt a bit.
Right.
How do you know I can trust myself? I can do this one thing that I've failed at for 25 years.
Really simple. All you have to do is just listen to your feelings and get into the practice of acting on them when you're being guided to do something or not to do something. And again, it's that honesty that comes into play. Mm-hmm. And as you practice, just like with any other mental faculty or skill, mm-hmm. you practice the same thing with emotions and feelings. That will also grow too. It's just not tangible, and it's not quite as tangible. It's not as quantifiable mm-hmm. as the mental faculties are, but it is very, very truthful and real.
Would you recommend taking small steps first, or or would you recommend say I've now transformed myself and I'm going to go have this? I'm going to get married,
right?
You know, and maybe I'm not even ready to even think about getting married.
Sure. I would say not to do anything drastic, because a lot of times that's just a mental thing. There's a difference between mental compulsion and that having an emotion to it versus a feeling-based thing that comes from guidance, and you have to learn how to distinguish the two.
Yeah. This
is impulsive. This is impulse buying. Here is feeling good and guided.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can see that. Like if I set a goal, whether it's emotional, financial, whatever it may be,
right.
quantifiable goal,
mm-hmm.
and I'm setting it because I think I should, or I think that's what I want, or mm-hmm. in my wildest dreams that's what I want. Mm-hmm. But in reality, I may need to be more congruent with that goal inside mm-hmm. before I set that, and maybe set some other steps along the way mm-hmm. first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an excellent comment, because it is hard to quantify that type of development. Alignment. There's a whole number of different sections on alignment, mm-hmm. and alignment is how you check in with those feelings, and you find out what they're telling you in conjunction with what your face is telling you, your mind is telling you.
Right. Well, I've never quite seen a book like this, and our last guest, Steve Thomas, and myself, we've both had thousands upon thousands of hours of training on inspiration, motivation, sales, self-development, personal engineering, mm-hmm. and I've never seen a book quite in this space before. Mm-hmm. And I find it non-offensive. I find it warming, and to me, I want to be a better man, and it all comes from the inside. I guess what I'm getting to is, who are your mentors? Where'd you get your guidance to come up with such wisdom at a young age? I mean, you're not exactly an old man.
No, I have a couple of gray hairs. I've had several mentors along the way, ministers. I've had a couple of those who have been helpful here and there. A lot of book reading of my own, and just being very, very diligent and diligent. Mm-hmm. Practicing diligence and being diligent, yeah.
Because, I think that some things you've touched on are things that we all probably have thought about, know about, just haven't quite
made it a priority.
Went behind that curtain and said,
right,
what's going on there?
Right.
And I'm not being honest with myself, and how come I'm not being as independent as I
Well, no one's going to, right, no one's going to tell you to make it that a priority until it becomes damage control. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see a reverse quote here. Heart is where the home is.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then explain that to me.
Yeah, it's wherever you make your, if you're taking care of what's going on in here, uh-huh. you're going to feel at peace wherever you're at.
So your home is wherever you go.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people want to, the mind tells us to build a secure structure around us, outside of us, but spirituality tells us to build that security inside of us. Mm-hmm. And then guess what? What you need on the outside changes dramatically.
What would you say to a person who's got like a built-up defense mechanisms. I see a little section here, a subsection that says removing defenses. What would you say to a person who's got some quirks where they're defensive about stuff that maybe they don't need to be so defensive about?
Well, there's a lot of good tactics about that because I've been very defensive myself growing up. Yeah, you wouldn't think it right now, but there's a lot of resisting authority and stuff like that in there. And the spiritual growth happens naturally when one is ready to lay down those defenses. It's not a forced thing.
But would they not feel, unprotected? I mean, those defenses come up for a reason. I mean, because you feel like someone's violating you,
right?
Or gonna violate you,
right? And you're protecting a vulnerability, right? Also, and it's the defense mechanism that if we can see that there's no real power in having the defense mechanism, we can be comfortable with being vulnerable, and then the healing that needs to happen or the release that needs to happen takes place, and then guess what? We don't feel like we have to defend anymore.
Wow. So, out of all the people that you've had influenced you, what do you think your biggest influence was?
Oh boy, I'd have to say people, like live people, or does it not matter?
It doesn't matter. I mean, my mentors come more from written form and audio form.
I'd say my biggest resource for help was A Course in Miracles. Put it that way. Big, thick book.
Interesting. Okay, Todd Schaefer with the Acceptance Guidebook, Spiritual Solutions for the Active Mind. Todd, would you be so kind as to give us your website address
Yep.
so people learn more about your book?
I'm at www.acceptanceguidebook.com, or you can call me at my coaching and consulting business at 602-759-5778, I believe.
Website one more time.
Acceptanceguidebook.com.
Todd, thank you very much. This has been a fantastic interview, and I appreciate you being here on our show.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, best guest of the day. That's a good job.